Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Thursday evening edition of Freedomlink Radio. I'm Joe Joseph, along with Mike Powers. And boy, we just had a great hour of radio on the Bob Tuskin Show over on the Oracle Broadcasting Network. And welcome to all you listeners that joining us from the Oracle Broadcasting Network and Bob Tuskin Show. As we just had one of the better hours of radio where we had a good round table of veterans talking about what happened in Oakland in regards to this Marine that got a gas canister in his head. So I thought it would be good to continue the conversation a bit and to kind of expand on it, as you know. Having an hour with four people really doesn't do justice to the conversation. So, Mike, here let's recap what happened. So, according to the press, I'm going to pull up the article that I have on this, and it is right here. It's the UK Mail Online. It said, "Why did police officer fire gas canister into crowd trying to help injured Iraq veteran? Protesters take to the streets of New York and Oakland in solidarity after Marine was left in critical condition." So, and this is in reaction to war hero Scott Olson, 24, was hospitalized in serious condition after he suffered a fractured skull during a march with other protesters in the California city of Oakland on Tuesday night. Questions were today being raised and asked of how police handled the situation after videos emerged of an officer throwing a gas canister into the crowd after they had rushed to help Olson, who was on the floor, or on the road, actually, it looks like. In a show of solidarity on Wednesday, Occupy Wall Street protesters left their tents for an impromptu march which caused widespread disruption across New York, causing police to shut roads and make several arrests. I'll tell you what, Mike, it as we said last hour, you got to approach this story from both sides.
Right. Right. Exactly.
It's Lucky, who was on with us from last show, just said someone just mentioned about this being like a shot heard around the world. What do you think about that? Do you think it could be, Mike, or is people?
No, I think that, man, I think we need to put this in its context, and I think we need to do it really fast. First of all, this is getting way out of hand. The thing until I've heard it was a gas canister, it was a flashbang, it was this, it was that. They had no right to do this. They had no right to do that. Let me preface what I'm going to say by saying a couple things. The last 5 pictures that I've seen of the OWS things have been a redheaded dude with his pants around his ankles defecating on the American flag. A young person, approximately, I'd say maybe 20 to 22, 24 years of age, with a big fat Che Guevara shirt on, as if that person has any clue who Che Guevara was or the things that he did, the atrocities that he committed. You see these people with signs that say support socialism, destroy capitalism, all this other kind of stuff. So these people are not out there fighting for your liberties. They're not out there protecting your Constitution. These are the people that are out there who are hell-bent on destroying this nation for what it is. You've got your Acorn people out there. George Soros has been hip deep in this since it started. So we've got to be real cautious about how we throw out the rescue net for some of these people. Secondly, another thing that I'm noticing is that, they're talking about how this munition was deployed, what this person did, how this officer did this, that, and the other wrong. There's this thing called 360-degree spherical awareness, that until such time as you have been in that reactionary person's shoes, we have no idea what was happening. For all we know, there's such a thing as a preemptive gassing of an area. When somebody goes down injured, the natural reaction from those officers is to saturate the area with enough gas to keep people from forming an offensive line. That is just basic counter-crowd tactical training, okay? Now, the other side of that to take into consideration is that until you've walked a mile in that guy's shoes, don't judge them. They're not, these guys are not paramedics. They're not doctors. They're not x-ray machines. They had no idea what the person's left. They had no way to know what happened. All they know is that they were specifically charged with keeping that area from erupting into civil disobedience. And, until we find out how the crowd formed themselves, I'm reminded of another instance that took place. I can't remember what it was, Joe, but there was a bunch of people that were at some kind of a rally at a college somewhere. They formed a big box with black banners that hung from their chest down to the ground. And then everybody was crying about how the cops fired a sonic suppression weapon at him and, all this other kind of stuff, and how that was the same thing, man. And, it turned out that it was just 180 decibel irritator is all it was. And everybody was trying to be all judgmental of what the officers had done until you really think about it from the officer's perspective. And when somebody forms a black box that you can't see into, how do you know that 15 people aren't going to pop up with AK-47s and just start blasting your line? At what point in time, how do you not roll the dice on a situation like that? We're so wrapped up in concentrating and supporting our troops. Okay, so let me put this in a kind of context that applies to our military. Say you're overseas in Afghanistan. Say you're rolling around with your squad or whatever, you're on patrols. You take direct fire from a direction. You turn around, you do what your doctrine trains you to do. You pour suppressive fire at that area until such time as the threat is eliminated. And then you go and do the mop-up later and realize that 5 or 10 kids were killed. Oh, shoot, we managed to hit a school.
But here's my argument to that. You're looking at it from a military perspective. This is not military. This is police officer. There's a different mentality that has to be maintained between being a police officer and a member of a military in a war zone.
Au contraire, my esteemed colleague. Au contraire. If you look at what's going on in the ground over in Afghanistan, we're not performing military operations. We're performing civilian police actions. We are suppressing civilian. We're not fighting people that are in uniforms. We're not fighting people that are out there in tanks and aircraft. We're fighting their civilian populace who show up in civilian clothing, fire an RPG at you, and then duck back into their hole and come back out screaming and crying as if they had done nothing wrong, and so the bad guy ran that way. So it's almost identical. Okay, in this execution. So what you're seeing here?
I understand exactly what you're saying, because it is one of the oldest and most effective tactics, and we used it during the Revolutionary War.
It's guerrilla warfare, man. It's guerrilla warfare. And when you look at these people out there that are screaming about their OWS and all blah, 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 I'm seeing Che Guevara, I'm seeing signs about socialism, I'm seeing people wiping their rectums and defecating on my American flag that my brothers and sisters have died for. And under the pretenses of protecting freedom and everything else, when they're nation building in Iraq and they're spending millions and millions and millions of American tax dollars to rebuild Iraq and Afghanistan and our own image and all this other kind of stuff, and then meanwhile our freedoms and liberties are being ripped apart and basically ass raped on a daily basis. The thing is we have to keep these things in context. Now, don't get me wrong, dude. I am overwhelmingly sorry that kid got hurt. Okay, I am deeply emotionally sorry that kid got hurt. I hope he survives, and I hope he doesn't have any lasting effects. That they aren't armed. I'm assuming that they're armed. I'm not assuming anything, man. I'm telling you from the point of someone who's been in the middle of that crap. I'm not gonna waste the time to assume. When it comes down to myself and my teammates, I'm not gonna make the mistake of assuming that they're just gonna be out there and peacefully protesting, because at any time, and it's happened countless times throughout history, all right, peaceful people go berserk in a matter of seconds. You want to talk about, assuming that they're armed? Look at October 3rd, 1993, Mogadishu, Somalia, when all of those people who didn't look like they were just citizens. They were just people. They were just bystanders until Super 6-4 hit the deck. And then you look how they tore our guys apart, hung them from bridges, burned them, chopped them up. Here to tell you, man. So,
hey, Mike, Lucky just chimed in and gave me a good comment. He says, we don't fight for a flag. We fight for what it represents. And what that represents is the freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. And you can't, these people need to be able to voice themselves. And I mean, it could get boisterous. It can get rowdy. Absolutely. But there's certain criteria for escalation of force that has to be, you have to hit that point. And
in that light, Joe, were those criteria met? Does the video clearly indicate 5 to 10, 4 minutes previous to the point that the non-lethal munitions were deployed? Does the video indicate the crowd's posture? Does it show whether or not they were forming a line? Does it show any of what the crowd was doing prior to the introduction of the LTLs?
Yeah, see, I don't know. That's one thing that I have not seen the video yet, so I can't speak to that. And when we come back, we'll continue our conversation about this act that happened at Occupy Oakland. So stick around, folks. We'll be right back. You're listening to Freedomlink Radio on the Orion Talk Radio Network. One of the things that I like about topics like this is it really does, it most certainly shows you just how many different viewpoints there can be on a particular subject, and how controversial it can be. And during the break, I said, how easy is it for us? How easy is it for us to be able to look back on an event and say what should or should not have been done, how police officers should react to certain things, how people should behave in a certain instance. And my thing is that these things happen, but protocols are put in place for a reason. And one thing that I have to do, Mike, in all honesty, is I actually have to watch the video, because this is kind of sprung on me at the last minute. So I don't have a lot of
backstory. Exactly.
Right. Exactly. I don't have all the facts. So I'm not gonna try and speak to the actual event and actually try and form a decision or anything like that. What I want to do more so is the argument, and the argument is, all right, they fired a canister into the crowd because the crowd was getting unruly, and I can understand that to a point, but what is unruly? Are they banging against the barriers? Are they doing stuff? Is it a provocateur that's doing something like that to force them to do that? And the one thing that you pointed out on Bob's show that I want you to reiterate is the fact that that these canisters, the launchers, are not accurate, are they?
Not by any means. Let me. I got to get in here, man, because I seem to have gathered up the dander of somebody that I absolutely respect and admire. That being your beautiful bride. I got to cool her down real quick because I know she's kind of ticked at me at the moment. Let me open up by saying this, okay? Number one, I'm not saying that I support either side of this engagement because I wasn't there. I didn't see who initiated the contact. I didn't see who made the decision. Let us also remember that the constitutional value that we have that protects their ability to do this says the right to peacefully assemble and address.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now what I'm going to say is I'm going to tell you this. When you're 15, 20, 30 guys, you're standing on a barrier line, and you've got hundreds upon hundreds of people standing in front of you who are already pissed off enough to be there in the first place. Okay, like I said during the break, you're going to look right, you're going to look left, you're going to remember that these are your teammates. Okay, and at the end of the day, you're not going to give a damn about anybody's political decisions. You're not going to give a damn about anybody's political agenda. You're going to care about whether or not you and your teammates go home to you and their families. All right. So let me say that I'm not supporting either side. We just got dumped into this last minute. I have not seen the videos. I don't know what happened. All I know is that a kid got struck in the head with an indirect weapon. Okay, it's not a sniper rifle. Now, let me give you an insight as to how these things happen. Okay, when a SWAT team comes out, your snipers that go out, when a sniper goes out, his mission is not to go out, cock and lock, and just start popping people left and right. Okay, his job is 99% information gathering. Through that optic, he has the ability to see things that the officers on the ground may not see. He goes to an elevated position. He's going to be looking around. He's going to be seeing, like you just said, provocateurs or agitators. He's going to pick them out, and then through the radios, he's going to call down to the guys on the ground. You've got a white male, 6 foot, white shirt, blue jeans, got a beer bottle in his right hand, that kind of stuff, so that these guys can go in and isolate those agitators and try very, very hard to keep peace. And that's all they're really trying. And at the rock bottom at the end of the day, is there somebody on that firing line, that suppression line, that's probably a bastard that wants to just go out there and start whacking people with a nightstick? Sure. I'm willing to admit that. There's bad apples in every barrel. Does that mean that the entire line is hell-bent on going out there? And if that was the case, man, like I've said, they would have just said hell with it and gone hot. So, all I'm saying at this point is that we can't make it until we have all of the facts. We can't make a determination as to who's right or who's wrong in this. Now, your bride asked a question that was very pointed. Isn't their job to preserve the peace? The answer to that question is no. Their job is to serve and execute the orders from the municipalities, the governments, the counties, the states that they are employed by, which is why police cars no longer say to protect and serve. If there is a crime in commission, it is their sworn duty and mandate to attempt to stop the crime to the best of their ability and make sure that people are not directly hurt in their presence, which is why they're a reactionary thing, which is something that every American needs to know. Law enforcement is not there to protect you. That's not their job. Okay.
Right.